So now we're going to update our ideas routes to use data from the database instead of just this hard-coded data. So after we do this, we'll be able to just delete this. All right, now I'm going to run my server because I don't have it running right now. So npm run dev. And first thing we want to do is bring in the model that we created in the last video. So right here, I'm going to say const and call this idea. And I'm going to give it a capital I. That's the convention when you're using a model. So we want to set that to require, and that's going to be .. So up one level out of the routes folder into the models folder, and then the idea model. Okay, so let's come down here, and the first thing we'll do is our get request. Now, there's nothing in the database right now, but we should still just get back an empty array. So let's come to this get all ideas route, and we're going to, actually, I'll just cut that because we are going to need that, but we need to do some other things first. So when we use our model, like in this case, we're going to use idea, which is our model, .find, to get the records, the documents in the database. Now that is asynchronous, that returns a promise. So we're actually going to use async await for this and for all the routes. So we just want to make sure we put async here. If you want, you can use the .then syntax. I'd prefer not to. I'd rather use async await. So we do want to add a try catch as well, just in case there's an error. And then let's say const ideas. And we're going to get those ideas from the database by calling await, and then on our model there's a method called find. So that will get our ideas. And then as far as what I want to respond with is going to be this same thing. I'm going to say success true, and the ideas that I get from the database are going to be put into this data. And then if something goes wrong here, then we'll do a let's do res.status, and I'm just going to do a 500, which is a server error, and then .json, and let's say we'll just do success false, and for a message, let's just actually let's do error. We'll say error something. We'll just say something went wrong. Okay, so I'm going to save that and come over to Postman and go back to, let's see, this tab here, which is a get request to just /ideas, and you'll see I get a 200 response and an empty array, which is what I expect because there's nothing actually in the database yet. So let's jump back into our code, and instead of doing the single idea next, I'm going to move on to the post request to add an idea, just so we can actually have some data to look at. So what we want to do is get rid of the push. We don't need that. And then I want to instantiate a new idea using our model. So this object right here, I'm going to wrap that in new idea, capital I, and then we just want to wrap parentheses. Make sure you put parentheses down here as well. So we're instantiating a new idea. We don't need to put the ID because that's automatically added with Mongo. And then we don't need the date because remember in our model we said the date is going to be equal to, it's going to have a default value of date.now. So we don't need that as well. We just need text, tag, and username, which are all coming from the HTTP request body. So that's our idea. Now down here, let's see, I'll just cut that, and we're going to do a try catch, and we're going to use the save method. So save we can actually use on this instantiated idea. Unlike find, we used it directly on the model variable, right? So some methods are made to be used directly on the model. Some are made to be used on an object that's instantiated from the idea object or whatever your model is. So what we can do is call, actually we need to add a sync here since we're using async await because all these methods are promises. And then we can say await that idea object that we instantiated, we can call save, and that will save it to the database. Now I want to return the new idea to the user or to the HTTP client. So what I'll do is add a variable here. Let's say const saved idea, set it to that. And then we can set our response with success true, and then the data will be the saved idea. Okay, and then if there's an error, then we'll just do, let's say, res dot status, we'll do 500 JSON, and let's say success false error, something went wrong. And we should also console log the data, otherwise we're not going to have any way to see what happened. So we'll console log error. Let's also do that up here as well. All right, so now I'm going to try to add a new idea. Let me just copy, I'm just going to copy one of these. And then we'll go to Postman, and let's go to our post requests. Okay, make sure you're making a post request to API/ideas. Just going to paste that in. We'll change the name here to Tony Stark. And let's send. And there we go. So we get success true. Data has our text tag and username. And if you notice, we have an underscore ID. And this is the format of the ID. It's called an object ID. Then we have the date. So we have to have the date and time. And then this is just the version of the document. So that's not really important to us right now. But that should have went in the database. Now, if we go to our GET request now and we send, now you can see we have some data in the database. And if you want to double check that with Compass, let's see, I believe we can go to connect, not connect. If you go to view, which you guys can't see on my screen, but if you go to view and then reload data, there we go. So in our ideas collection, we have an idea. So if we want to add another one, let's grab the next one. And we'll go back here to, let's see, post. Throw that in there, and let's change this tag to inventions. And let's see, for the name, we'll change that to Steve Rogers. Send, and we get our response back. If I go to get all, you can see we have both of them in there, both in the database. So now we can go up here to where we're getting the single idea, and let's change it from using the hard-coded data to using the database. So we can get rid of this, and let's just use a try catch here. I'll get rid of that. We'll cut this response, and then we'll say try catch, and let's say const idea, and we're going to await, so we need a sync up here. So await on the model. So this I'm going to use find by ID, which is on the model itself. So find, you'll see all these methods pop up. So find by ID, and the ID we can get from the request.params.id. And then we'll send our successful response, which is going to be the idea. And if something goes wrong, I'm just going to copy these two lines here and throw that in there. All right, so now let's go back to Postman, and we're going to need one of these IDs, right? So let's take the milk cartons ID, and let's go to make a GET request to that ID, and there we go. So I get the correct one. So now we just have to do the update and the delete. So let's go to our update, our put request, and let's see, we're gonna might as well just get rid of all this. So we'll do try catch, And let's make sure we make this async. In our try, let's say const updated idea, because I want to return the updated idea, so I'm going to put it in a variable. And then await, and the method we're going to use here is on the model, and it's called find by ID and update. So pretty explanatory. And that's going to take in first the ID. I'm going to put this on a separate line though. So the ID we're going to get from request.params.id. Then we're going to put a comma. And next what we do is we have an object and we use this money sign set. So for this set, we put in an object, and these are going to be the fields that we want to update. So let's say text, set that to request.body.text, and then tag, so request.body.tag, and then I'm not going to do the username, so we'll just add both of those. And then there's a third argument that we can use. So after this curly brace, we're going to put a comma and then another set of curly braces, and I'm going to set new to true, meaning that if that idea doesn't exist, that with that ID, it'll create it. It'll create a new one. All right, then after that method, which ends right here, we're going to do our response. Oops, that's not it. So I guess we'll just type it out. Let's say res.json, and we want to pass in here success is going to be true. And what I want to return for the data is going to be the updated idea. Okay, and then here, let's just do console log error, and let's set back or send back 500, and success is going to be false, and the error, say something went wrong. All right, so that should allow us to update. So let's try it out. So we have, let's see, this idea, this milk cartons idea by Steve Rogers. Let's change, yeah, let's change that one. So this is the ID for this one. I'm going to keep this tab open so I can check the data after, but let's go to, we'll go to this tab, and let's pass in the ID and make sure this is a put request. And then let's change, not the text, I'll leave the text. Let's change the tag to business. So I'm going to hit send, and now we get back the data. So this is the milk carton idea, and the tag is now business. So if I go back to this get request where I'm getting the data and I send, you can see now it's business. So we were able to update the tag, and the rest of the data just stayed the same, which is obviously what we want. Cool, so now let's do the delete. So let's see, we'll just get rid of this. Actually, I'll grab this response and then get rid of all that. So in the try, we're gonna await on idea, and then there's a method called find by ID and delete. So obviously that's going to take in the ID. So let's say request.params.id, and we need to make this asynchronous. Okay, and then for the response is just going to be success true, and then data an empty object, and then for the if there's an error, just grab that, and that should do it. So now I can get rid of all this stuff up here, this hard-coded data, because we're no longer using that. And let's try the delete. So we'll go here, and let's delete the Steve Rogers one, the milk carton. So this ID, I'm going to grab that. Actually, I already have it in this tab. And then let's go to delete. And you don't need to send anything else. Just click send. We get a 200 back. We get an empty object. So now if we go to our get request that shows all of them and I send, now we only have the Tony Stark one. So we're able to delete. So we have a full CRUD REST API with a database. So our data is being persisted. So now we're ready to create our front end, which we're going to do in the next section.